hockey fans, welcome back to the Oilers Fanatic. If this is your first visit to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing, and you can also follow along on Twitter and Instagram at Oilers Fanatic YT. Lots to go through today, so let's get started. First up, we now know the issue that has been keeping Josh Archibald out of camp. Dave Tippett revealed today that Archibald had COVID over the summer, and as a result of his infection, is now suffering from myocarditis. It's an inflammation of the heart muscle. The inflammation can reduce your heart's ability to pump and cause rapid or abnormal heart rhythms. It's very sad news to hear, and I wish Archie a full and speedy recovery. Hopefully this doesn't cost him his career. This is a situation that needs to be handled with compassion. We all have our beliefs, but at the end of the day, Archibald is a human being and needs to be treated as such. This is the same condition that Alex Stalock has, so we now have two Oilers suffering from COVID complications. I just hope this is another example for people to take this seriously. It's your body, your choice, but there are consequences like this that you just hate to see. Moving back to training camp, Mike Smith left the ice early, and Tippett said he wasn't feeling right, but they are going to see how he is in the morning. He was supposed to play tomorrow against Calgary. Hopefully Schmidt's okay, and it's nothing too serious. That's the last thing the Oilers need, starting the year with Smith out again. Next up, the Oilers announced more cuts from training camp today. The Oilers have assigned the following players to the Bakersfield Condors: defenseman Philip Berglund, defenseman Philip Broberg, and goaltender Ilya Konovalov. Two players have also been placed on waivers for purpose of assignment to Bakersfield: forward Seth Griffith and forward Cooper Marody. Berglund and Broberg both had solid camps, which is great to see. They will be the top pairing for Bakersfield and will give the Oilers two solid call-ups if needed. I was really impressed with Ilya Konovalov. I think he did a great job as well. I think this demotion shows, though, that for now he's number 4 in the pecking order, behind Smith, Koskinen, and Skinner. Skinner has also looked good, and depending on how things are looking with Smith, he may be up with the Oilers a little longer. I don't think Seth Griffith and Cooper Marody should have any trouble clearing waivers. Neither of them really stood out to the extent that someone will claim them. I hope they clear, and the Oilers can have them as backup. Puckpedia had this update on the Oilers' cap situation. With Josh Archibald potentially out long-term, the Oilers can submit a roster of 23 and put Klefbom on long-term injured reserve and Stalock and Archibald on injured reserve and be $4.1 million over the cap, setting that as their long-term injured reserve pool. They would then place Stalock and Archibald on LTIR and be able to exceed the cap by $6.385 million, leaving around $2.3 million in cap space to use. I'm not going to pretend I understand all that. It gets complicated with all this stuff. But bottom line, with the right maneuvering, the Oilers should have $2.3 million in cap space to use. It sounds like with the Archibald news, Colton Sevier should be getting a contract from the Oilers. It will probably be a two-way contract worth $750K at the NHL level. I would say he's earned it to this point. These were the Oilers' lines today at practice. On the top line, Zach Hyman, Connor McDavid, and Jesse Puljujärvi. On the second line, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, and Kyler Yamamoto. On the third line, Warren Foegele, Derek Ryan, and Zach Kassian. And on the fourth line, Brendan Perlini, Devin Shore, and Kyle Turris. Tyler Benson, Ryan McLeod, and Colton Sevier made up a fifth line. And on defense, Darnell Nurse and Tyson Barrie were partnered together, Duncan Keith and Cody Ceci, Slater Cuckoo and Evan Bouchard, and William Legason and Chris Russell. Mike Smith, Mikko Koskinen, and Stuart Skinner are the goaltenders remaining in camp. I think we all thought Ryan McLeod was a lock to make the roster, but to this point, he hasn't secured his spot. Devin Shore looks to be closer to securing a role at center on the fourth line, with Derek Ryan centering the third line. If McLeod is sent down to Bakersfield, it's not the end of the world. I'm sure he'd be back before too long, and if the Oilers are going to do it, now is the time, while he's still waiver exempt. I think our bottom six is going to look pretty close as to how it appears today, with Foegele, Ryan, and Kassian on the third line, Perlini, Shore, and Turris on the fourth line, with Colton Sevier and possibly Tyler Benson if the Oilers carry 14 forwards. If the Oilers go with 13, I think Benson is headed for the waiver wire, or possibly a trade is worked out, as we discussed before. Speaking of Benson, he was dealing with a groin issue, but was back on the ice today, so he appears to be okay, which is great to see. I think that's all for today, guys. Thanks as always for watching and for all your support. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. You've been watching the Oilers Fanatic. Thanks for being a fan. Take care, guys.